Hey guys, we can go ahead and get started right now. I have Xcode here on my desktop. If you don't, the previous video, the one right before this one, shows you how to install Xcode from the App Store. I'm going to go ahead and open up Xcode. When it loads for you, just click on Create a new Xcode project. There's a bunch of templates in general for different types of projects. Sometimes useful, like if you're going to make an AR application or a game or something that fits perfectly into one of these categories, but in general you're going to be mostly using a single view application as your template, which basically gives you nothing except one screen and one view controller. Let's go ahead and click that, hit next, give your product a name. I'm just going to call it weather. Make sure that Swift is selected rather than Objective-C. The organization name and identifier don't really matter currently, and everything else you can leave alone. Hit next. You can create a folder where you want to keep all this stuff. I'll just create it on my desktop. Create a new folder. Call it weather tutorial. Hit create. It'll do its thing. Get loaded up. The first two things that you're going to pay attention to are the view controller. .swift, which is basically where all the code for the first screen is going to go, which this is probably just going to be a single page application. And then the main.storyboard. The storyboard is a place where you can visualize what your app looks like visually. This wasn't originally a feature of Xcode, got added more recently. A lot of old school guys like to do everything that has to do with the view in code, which you can do, like making a button or creating a holder for an image, and all that you can do in code. I just think it gets messy and it's hard to visualize, especially for a beginner. We're going to actually set this up after we get all our information. What we have to do right now, my first step if I wanted to make a weather application, would be to get some kind of reference so we can get an idea of what we want our app to look like. For that, I'm just going to go to Google, open up a new window here, close that. For Google, I'm going to just say weather app. So let's just Google weather app, see what images comes up with. I usually like to have some kind of reference photo. There's a lot of cool examples. This is kind of cool. Probably something a little simpler. This would be the generic, like Apple weather design. This looks cool too. I guess in general we can say that this top section is kind of what we want. A location name, a general summary, which here says snow, a temperature, and then maybe like a high and low for the thing. The next step that I would do is find a weather API, and let's say iOS or something like that. API is an application programming interface. It's a way of communicating from an application to a website and getting information. We can check out this one. It's called Open Weather. This is kind of similar to what we want. Okay, yeah. So this is a pretty good example. This is an example of an API call. What you can see is just basic API, and then the name of the website, and then just a special thing that's called data, 2.5, not sure what that means. Would look it up. It probably has some significance. Maybe the version of the API. And then a query, you can tell by the question mark in the queue to say that it wants to look for London weather. And then what it would be returned is this information, which is not a lot. Just some basic information. I mean, kind of all we need. We could use this. We have our basic summary, and then our description, and then an icon, which you can look up what it means later. But here's another website. Let's try a different one that I've used in the past. I believe it's like weather IO API, something like that. Forecast. Okay, here it is. It's originally was called forecast.io. I guess now it's called darksky.net. I'm logged in. Go ahead and make yourself an account if you don't have one. In general, if you go to the console, it'll say that the API usage is free. It's free up to 1,000 calls a day. After that, it's like 0.0001. So like 1,000 calls is $1. We'll go into that later. It's not so important. This secret key you should keep a secret. I'm gonna have mine blurred out in the video. But then once you sign up for an account, you'll see this key here, this example, which is probably going to be your location. For me, it's Los Angeles. And if you click on it, you'll see what kind of response you're going to get from the app when you request this website. This, you can see, is a lot more detailed than what the other one was, which is kind of cool. This has entire weeks and like a minutely forecast, which is way too specific for us, but that's not a problem. So this looks really organized. Yours might look a little different. It might look like this. I have a tool. I can actually see what it is for you guys. It's a Google Chrome extension, and I'm sure whatever web browser you're using has an extension as well. I believe here it is. JSON formatter. Grab that from the extensions on Google Chrome or whatever web browser you're using, and it'll be a lot easier to read JSON. And that's what this is. It's JavaScript object notation, if I remember correctly, is what JSON is. It's just a cool way. It's just a modern way to get information back from the web. It's used commonly for a lot of APIs, so it's something that you should get used to. So basically, this whole bit is what you get in return, and then what we're going to be doing is grabbing this current information for when we made the request and manipulating it so it looks good in our application, and then we're going to have something that looks kind of like what we were looking at in those examples. So for this video, we just opened up our project, looked at what we're going to be using for a tool, and this is exactly how I would do it myself. I'd find an API for whatever I needed if I was going to do a web call. We could also set up the user interface at first, but that's just preference wise. I like to get the information first and then set up the user interface based on what I get. We'll end this video here. In the next video, we're going to be installing CocoaPods, which is a dependency manager. Essentially, it lets you add tools that other people made into your applications very easily. This is something you can do commonly. All the popular like social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, they all have APIs. A lot of websites and services have APIs, and it's just a way of communicating between your application and their services. So like if you want to log into Facebook through your app as a sign up rather than using like email and password, that's an API. Same thing with Twitter. If you want to use some kind of like cool photo features that a website offers, they probably have an API. So this is very important. It's something that was super daunting to me when I first tried to do it. I didn't understand it. I didn't get how to make this network calls from my phone or anything like that. So that's what we're going to do in the next video. Good job so far. We haven't done a lot. The next video we're going to be doing a lot more with the app itself. See you in the next one.